Konnichiwa! Welcome to World Languages with Dr. L. In today's video, I'm going to help prepare you for the Japanese World Language Praxis exam number 5661. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the test format so you can understand what you're studying for. Alright, so this test is going to cost you $170. It's going to take about 3 hours, and it's for people that want to prepare to be an elementary or secondary Japanese teacher. And so the specific dates and score requirements are going to vary by state, so check out the information on the Praxis exam site. All right, so the first thing that we need to know is the exam format. So there's going to be 4 sections. The first 2 sections are 75 selected responses. That's sections 1 and 2. There's going to be interpretive communication, reading, listening, and culture. And then in section 3 is going to be writing with 3 constructed responses. And section 4 is speaking with 3 constructed responses, and you're going to be asked to communicate in both the presentational and interpersonal modes of communication. All right, so let's take a look at the constructed response section a little bit more in depth with the interpersonal and presentational modes of communication. So this is going to make up 36% of your exam score. Section 3 is writing with 3 prompts, takes you about 55 minutes. And section 4 is speaking with 3 prompts, and that's going to take you about 15 minutes. Okay, so before we get to the multiple choice section, the helpful hint here is to preview the questions first, then read the authentic article, and then answer the question. All right, so what are some ways that you can practice reading? There's a website called aatj.org. The American Association of Teachers of Japanese, and they have a national Japanese exam that's great practice, not only for students but also for anybody that wants to practice their Japanese, especially people that are preparing for their Praxis exam. Number 2, see if you can find a Japanese book, maybe at your school or your local library. The more you read, the better you're going to get at reading and being tested over reading. Even children's books can be helpful with the pictures. There might be a vocabulary you're not familiar with or different verb tenses that you're not used to. Magazines are also a great way to practice reading. They've got shorter articles than books. But what I like to take a look at in the magazines are the advertisements. Sometimes these appear on the test because they're trying to sell something, or there's a cultural element incorporated, and typically they've got a catchy slogan. So pay attention to those as well. Also reading newspapers, be current on current events and cultural items. Also, there's articles and vocabulary that you can read. So I might take a look at asahi.com or manichi.jp or the Tokyo newspaper. So those are all great ways to practice your reading. Okay, so my helpful hint here for reading comprehension is keep track of words that you're learning. Maybe you're coming across words that you keep seeing over and over again. Write those down and then study them. So maybe you want to make a Quizlet. So reading comprehension comes down to about 90% of vocabulary knowledge. The more words you know, the better your reading comprehension is going to be. All right, how about some ways to practice listening? Maybe there's some Japanese music that you like, and so you could even put this on the background while you're working on something else, and then again listen to the words, maybe look up song lyrics. Also check out movies in Japanese. They can be actual Japanese movie, and take a look at cultural elements, or they can be American movies or movies from other places, but see if you can put them into Japanese subtitles or Japanese audio and practice that way. It could be your favorite movie or movies that you're familiar with that you've seen before. See if there's some way to immerse yourself. Is there some connection to a Japanese community here where you can practice? So the more that you can practice speaking and listening, the better off that you're going to be. Also, I like to practice language with news and weather sites. So typically they've got a lot of information that they need to get out in a short amount of time. And because so, they speak at a really fast pace. And so if you can't keep up with that fast pace, see if you can put on the closed captioning or subtitles, but then try to listen without that scaffolding as well. But that's also a good practice tip there. Okay, another helpful hint for listening is to take notes of what you hear during the listening section and then refer back to those notes as you answer the question so you don't have to try and memorize everything. All right, let's take a look a little bit more in depth at the writing section. So that's going to cover 18% of your exam score. Take about 55 minutes, including a 5-minute writing practice. And they're going to test you on interpersonal writing, presentational writing, and then presentational writing integrated skills. And what that one means, there's a concept where they're gonna test your writing and then also speaking on that same concept. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth when we get to the speaking section. Okay, so what is the interpersonal writing? They're going to present you with an email, a letter, a memo, and you're going to need to respond to questions in there. So you need 60 words minimum, and they suggest you spend about 15 minutes on this section. Make sure that you know how to start a formal letter in Japanese. How do you say dear in Japanese? How do you say sincerely in Japanese? And then double check that you're responding to any questions that they're asking you in the writing prompt. Okay, up next is the presentational writing. It's an opinion or position essay. So it's 120 words minimum, and they suggest you spend about 15 minutes, and you need to be able to explain and to defend your opinion, and you need to be able to give examples and reasons that support your opinion. All right, and the last writing prompt is your presentational writing, the integrated skills. So you're going to read a passage, and it's going to appear in both writing and in the speaking section. So another written response, 120 word minimum, spend about 20 minutes on this one. And now on this one, you need to explain the pros and cons, so both sides to the topic, and again, provide some logical reasons why. Okay, and the last section is the speaking section, and that's another 18% of your grade. And it's going to be 6 minutes of speaking in these 3 sections. So the first one's the integrated skills and 2 minutes of speaking. Then you got presentational skills, 2 minutes of speaking. Then the last one's a simulated conversation with 5 speaking prompts, speaking 25 seconds after each of the 5 prompts. All right, let's take a look at the integrated skills a little bit more in depth. So it's the same article as the writing section. And now you're going to speak your opinion on the topic. So you get 2 minutes to prepare and then 2 minutes to speak into the computer. Up next is the simulated conversation. You get 30 seconds to read the outline. Your first prompt is a greeting and give information about yourself. Then they're going to ask 4 questions, and then you need to respond to those sections and try to speak for as fully as possible in the 25 seconds provided for each prompt. All right, arigato. Up next, you may want to check out the World Languages Pedagogy Praxis exam number 5841 if you're preparing for that. All right, sayonara.